To Sierra Leone now, where it looks like the presidential elections are heading to a runoff vote. The final results are due out today. Over 75% of the ballots have been counted. Julius Maada Bio of the main opposition Sierra Leone People Party has over 43% of the vote. Samura Kamara of the ruling All People's Congress garnered nearly 43% of the vote. A candidate needs 55% plus to win. There's some cause for concern, however, with reports of sporadic clashes across the country during the vote counting process. Well, let's get you more now on that story. I'm joined live from Freetown by CGTN's Susan Wangeli. Susan, what's the very latest on the results there?
Well, Karen, as you said there, we already have 75% of the votes in, and they put main opposition leader Julius Maada Bio in the lead, followed closely by the APC candidate Samura Kamara. But it's so close to call because the difference between these two candidates is just about 15,000. So they're really neck and neck. We are expecting the results much later today, but this could be unlikely. Why? Because the National Electoral Commission has announced the recount in 83 polling centers, saying that there were reports of irregularities, ballot stuffing, and just technical hitches. So they're going to have to have another recount, and in those polling centers, they represent the remaining 25%. So we might have to wait a bit longer for that. But generally, the reaction here to that has been one of anxiety, because everybody is just waiting and hoping that this can be over already, so that they can move on to the next phase.
Well, let's talk about the next phase. Can you talk us through the process of the second round of voting?
Yes, as it is right now, a candidate needs 55% of the vote, so it is unlikely, it's very likely rather, that it's going to be a presidential runoff. And this is what happens if once the final results have been announced, then definitely the country almost immediately goes into campaign mode, because these elections have to be done within 14 days. And there were concerns, how is it going to be possible to carry elections when they take elections in 14 days? But the National Electoral Commission says that they have everything. They had put in contingency plans to ensure that this happens. And it's really going to be a very straightforward affair, because the rest of the candidates will not be in the ballot box, in the ballot papers. So it's just the two front runners who will be fighting it out. And we're bracing for interesting times, because now it will be these candidates rallying the other small parties for support, just to ensure that they have those numbers. So it's going to be very interesting. People are talking about the C4C candidate. Perhaps APC might want to court the C4C candidate, and perhaps the National Grand Coalition candidate. But at the same time, remember, the NGC candidate, or rather the party, is a breakaway from SLPP. So we're going to be seeing whether these two can mend their breakup and perhaps form a united force. But all this we'll be able to know in the next 14 days. Now, immediately they do their election, then this is just a simple majority. So the winner just takes it all. So that's what people are bracing for. And this is going to be very interesting, because now it's do or die. It's either now or never. So the tensions there are definitely going to be heated.
Okay, well, you're talking about tensions. Is there a sense of nervousness in the country? What are people expecting?
Well, it's not really nervousness, but anxiety, because, you know, this has been very intense for them. And, you know, the way they've been releasing this result, 25% we saw the APC ahead with a very small margin. Then after the 50%, we saw they were almost neck to neck. So it's been a roller coaster of emotions for people here. And yes, they are anxious and they just want to get over with this. But something else, and it almost reminds me of the Kenya elections immediately after the post-election violence. There was a lot of talk and a lot of people, messages out there for people to maintain peace. It's the same thing here, and there's not a day or any moment that goes by without people being urged, you know what, it's just an election, let's keep the peace. So as much as there is anxiety, a lot of people are saying, let's wait for the National Electoral Commission to do its job, and let's keep the calm and just see if this process is over and we can move on. So but generally, the message here is one of peace, and you know, as they're always saying that it is a one-day affair, and it's very important that the country remains peaceful. At the same time, Sierra Leone wants to be a man. You know, in West Africa, they've been holding a number of democratic elections, and their outcomes have been accepted and deemed deemed fair and credible. So Sierra Leone also wants to be among this, and it's doing everything it can to ensure that everything goes on smoothly and there's no violence, and yes, they can take the country to the next phase.
Okay, Susan, that was CGTN, Susan Wongeli in Freetown there, following the elections in Sierra Leone.